Hello everybody, welcome to It Was Tuesday with your host James Chen, aka Jay Chenzor. Today we're going to be talking about some couple of topics out here. Of course, we're all just waiting for Street Fighter 6 patch notes. By the time you see this on YouTube, the patch notes will probably already be out. They might even come out during this episode. But while we're waiting for that, let's talk about a couple of things that the FGC has been discussing recently. In particular, let's talk about this topic here. I wasn't sure how to title this in a very, very short way, but it's really kind of an interesting topic here, all coming about from a tweet from UMISHO. And what's funny is before the show started here, I was talking to my chat, before the show started here on Twitch, and we got into this whole conversation about introversion and extroversion and how they're different and everything, and, different personality types. And actually, that was a super relevant conversation to what we're going to talk about here, because this kind of came out about because one of the top American Guilty Gear Strive players, UMISHO just recently tweeted out, and I quote, "Please don't DM me to ask for sets if I don't know you, thank you." Thank you hands, basically, emoji. And this was kind of started getting taken a little out of context. But then UMISHO kind of accidentally doubled down when she tweeted in response to somebody else who says, who was saying something, about this. UMISHO tweeted, "Most people, me included, just don't want to commit their time to playing someone that they will probably get no meaningful practice out of playing. I don't think that's weird." And then this is where everything exploded, because then everybody was like, you know what? You're just an elitist. What happened to you, UMISHO? You started out as a beginner as well, etc. All this stuff. And some of the responses are too fragile. You're too fragile to take an L. This is antithetical to the entire point of the FGC. Terrible take. Holy crap. You were that person at one point and someone took the time with you. This take is actually hilarious. This is why Japan and other countries always a blow away. And, people went after that tweet. And, to be fair, so before we continue forward here, I do want to say that UMISHO did write a very, very long tweet afterwards, saying, wanted to clear up what was happening. And she said, first I want to address the elephant in the room. No, I do not, in fact, believe that I am above helping weaker players, whether it be playing sets or just taking the time to give advice. I've gone out of my way to do so plenty of times. She wrote two very long twit-longers, basically, that had a lot of stuff. And, talking about one of the interesting things out here, where she said, I know UMISHO inspires so many people every day. I'm so glad that she has. She's becoming much more than just me, right? Knowing UMISHO doesn't mean, Claire, which is her real name, which is her government, basically, and trying to get no one through, I want UMISHO to keep inspiring folks, etc., etc. There's a lot of stuff about that, and, I immediately responded right away. And, this is kind of the crux of where I wanted to go with this topic here. As I said to Claire, I was like, you are not in a very easy position. And people putting too many expectations on you is rough. And, to clarify this, I say it here. I've often said the thing that is sorely missing from the FGC is people who can help younger players understand and learn how to deal with newfound fame and success. It's unfair that we expect so much from our younger players, honestly. You look at any athletic sport out there, teams have sports psychiatrists, publicists, etc., tons of resources for people to get aid on handling the situation. We don't have that, and it makes it very hard. that, and I basically said, I felt like I told her that I felt like she came back and handled it maturely. And I hope most people understand where she's coming from. And I even said, even as old as I am, I keep messing it up and tweeting dumb shit that gets taken way out of context because of my own bad wording and emotions, And so basically, it's an interesting topic here. Because the thing about it is, there are a lot of people who defended UMISHO, right? There are a lot of people who actually, like, here's some defense over here, hot take. Being good doesn't mean you're obligated to be used as other people's training routine. People asking to play should respect that it's up to the person they're asking and be okay if they decline or decline to respond, et cetera, et cetera. And this is the thing, is that both, like, it sucks to say this because, like, this has gotten a negative connotation here. But in this particular instance, both sides are absolutely correct. Like, nobody is wrong here. Nobody is right here. This is not a black or white issue here. A black and white issue, or black or white issue. Yes, black or white issue. This is not an either this or that, This is a very delicate topic that we have to understand. And the crazy thing about it is a lot of people who have been disagreeing with UMISHO and chastising her a lot of them have given examples like, I remember the time at this event, Brian F. sat down with me and he played and we did all this stuff and I even tried to get up and Brian F. was like, keep going, keep playing. And then another one's like, yeah, I remember that, people would ask me for sets and I would play them here, at this event and blah, 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 blah. Like, we have to, a lot of the examples that people are giving are offline, You have to understand there is a huge difference between offline and I'm at home and I got a DM and someone is asking me for a set and you know what? I don't feel like it right now because, again, like I said, introversion, ADHD, OCD, depression, etc., etc. Like, you have to understand that when it's something like through DMs, you're at your home, when you're at an event, you are, like, for those of us who are introverts, and there is no question that UMISHO is an introvert, right? Like, I barely even have to talk to her, and I can tell you she's an introvert, right? There is difference when you go to an event. Your brain is already, okay, I am in public mode, I am in social mode, and this is how introversion works. Introvert doesn't mean you have no ability to be social. It just means you only can be social for so long. You can only be social for so long before you're like, you know what? Fuck human beings. Get the fuck out of here. I'm going to my room and I will see you guys later. Right? Like, this is a very, very, very different kind of thing. And, like I said, in the twit longers that UMISHO wrote here, she bared a lot of her soul here because I want to see the section here that she has. So like, she was basically said, let me see, because it's a big paragraph, so it's hard for me to see. But yeah, okay, so basically she says, people who I've never met before start calling me by my first name, not just online, but at events. They start asking me personal questions, messaging me directly, asking to hang out, or even asking for uncomfortable favors. It really messes with her really badly. It's a big reason why I've stopped streaming, as well as mostly gone silent in her own Discord. It's scary to be treated so familiarly by so many people who I've never met. They see me every day, but I've never seen them once. And again, as a streamer, as a personality, I know exactly how that feels a lot of the time. It's why a lot of times I don't stream, because I'm just like, I just don't want to be in this world, the disconnect is real and it's freaky. I didn't set she says she blames herself. She didn't set her boundaries properly. It's not her fault. I'm just going to say that right there. This is streaming world. It's very difficult. And it's also idolization world. It's a very, very much an idolization world. So it's very, very difficult to handle. But then, she also says she's been stressed very recently. She's been going through a lot of stuff. And so it's been very difficult for her recently. And as I know myself, you just have to read my Twitter at night. When I lose, when I get upset, I definitely start tweeting stupid shit because I get super frustrated and it's hard to handle. So UMISHO in this situation when she's tweeting out like, oh, you know what? I don't want to play a set that doesn't benefit me. She's at this point in time, she's getting all these responses and people yelling at her and having all these opinions on these takes. And you just start typing and it's just really, it's hard, dude. It's really, really hard. So this is the difficult situation here. So like I said, there is no wrong side to this. Like, we have to understand that the people that we're talking to on the streams, in the DMs, on Twitter and stuff, are human beings, right? They're human beings. And, just because we know them and just because we see how they present themselves publicly doesn't necessarily reflect who they are privately. And we have to understand that, and we have to be careful of that. But at the same time, on the side of the player side, or on the influencer side, this is such a difficult realm to navigate. Like I said, nobody's out here training us for this, right? I've often told the story of when Chris G first moved to Southern California, and he did an interview with Slasher and oh God, it was a couple of guys. I can't remember who they were, but one of them was Slasher. And he just started saying just these like terrible things about the fighting game community, and just saying like these things, painting the fighting game community very poorly. And, I talked to him in person. I was like, what the hell are you doing? And he was like, look, I like the Charles Barkley route, right? He was literally like, I didn't ask to be a representative of the FGC. I never wanted to be a role model. Like, I never asked to be like, a public figure to represent the FGC and stuff like that. This is not what I signed up for. And I literally said to him, if you don't want to deal with that, you can suck at fighting games like the rest of us. Because if you are going to be good, you don't have a choice. And again, that sucks. And again, no side is right here because it sucks for the player, but it sucks for everybody else too who idolizes the player, etc., etc. But again, you don't have a choice. If you are putting yourself in the limelight because you are winning, you are going to have to deal with the public image and representing your entire scene. And this is such a difficult thing to process for a lot of people. And like I said, a lot of other things, sports and stuff, have people who can teach you this and also have publicists who will go like, don't tweet that. Do not tweet that. Right? Like, you can't do anything about that, right? So, yeah, I mean, to Shay's point, like when UMISHO tweeted that, a lot of people kept saying like, oh, this is the Overwatch side of you, isn't it? Like, gotcha, like trying to paint the Overwatch community. No, look, I have a benefit. One, that I get to meet these people in person, okay, and talk to them and actually converse with them and interact with them. But also, and I just said this on Twitter, my superpower is empathy, right? And what is empathy? Empathy is just being super and hyper aware that other people and their feelings exist, right? Honestly, like, you see UMISHO and, like for me, like as soon as I see UMISHO, it's like how you play fighting games, right? Like you fight, like I've often said, when you play a fighting game, when I fight against a Ryu, the first thing I do is backdash. If I fight in ranked mode and I fight against a Ryu that I've never fought before, I backdash. Why? Because I want to see if the Ryu chases me, or I want to see if he goes away and starts throwing fireballs. Because then right away from that single interaction at 99 seconds, I can put you in a box and grow from there. If you walk back and throw fireballs, I'm like, interesting, defensive. Okay, so I'm going to have to be a little more aggressive. Or if the Ryu chases me down, I'm like, oh, this is one of those Ryus, right? And so I have this ability to, thanks to, that's probably one of the reasons why I love fighting games, but I have the ability to really understand people. And as soon as I see UMISHO, I know exactly what she's like. It's why I'm so sympathetic for Punk as well. A lot of people tell me I'm way too lenient on Punk, but again, he's a player I've talked about a lot, and I understand him so much. I understand Punk, and I sympathize with him so much because I see so much of me in that person. You know what, Planet Chaser? It would be projecting if I wasn't always so fucking right. All right? Look, I don't brag about a lot of things. Like I said, I am very self-deprecating all the time. But it would be projecting if I was wrong a lot of the time. But the fact that I am almost always right. The fact that I'm almost always right. Again, here's the facts, right? Yes, do top players have a responsibility to give back to their community? As I told Chris G, absolutely. Should UMISHO help beginners? Should UMISHO play sets with people, etc., etc.? Yes, absolutely. And she said that she's done it many, many times, right? It's just in this particular instance, she was like, please don't DM me asking me for sets, because she probably gets a bazillion DMs asking for this. And again, how do you choose who you give practice to, who you don't give practice to? How do you manage your time, especially as an introvert, as somebody who is not, who's not an alpha type, who's just like, let's go, these are things that you have to train yourself to do, that you have to work at, right? Let's look at someone like Justin Wong. Justin Wong, massive introvert, very much introvert. And you'd be like, Justin doesn't seem like an introvert. He lived in my fucking home, okay? He lived in my house. I never saw him. I, of all people, have authority in saying that Justin Wong is an introvert. But, he's learned as a content creator and stuff to come out of that shell. A lot of that comes from the practice of being in the MVC2 community, because if you are an introvert in the MVC2 community, you just get swallowed up and die, right? Like you can't survive in that kind of situation right there. So again, you can train yourself that way. But again, how old is UMISHO? Like, she's like, what? Like, is she even 20 yet? I don't even know, right? Like, I don't even know. She was super young when she won EVO in Strive. So Necromancy Black, you missed it, but it's basically UMISHO basically saying, please don't DM me for asking for sets. And then she said, most people just don't want to commit their time to playing someone that will probably get no meaningful practice out of playing. So again, it is a bad thing to say, in terms of a public face, and you want to help people. And the point is that the top players do, as a top player, you have a responsibility to give back to your scene. You just do. It's exactly what I told Chris G. It's exactly what I told a bunch of other players, who don't want to, even when Flocker won EVO, I told him because he wanted to make something out of it. It's like, I won Marvel 3 in EVO, but his stock didn't grow. And I told him, I was like, you're not doing anything on social media. You're not engaging people. You're not doing stuff. And he's like, isn't winning EVO enough? And I basically said, I'm sorry, but no, it's not. It's not enough, and that's the sad truth of the matter. And again, it sucks to hear all this, but when you become a public figure, you do you're forced to play the game. It's like I told Chris G, you just don't have any choice. If you don't want to represent the scene, if you don't want to be in that position, then you just gonna have to suck like the rest of us or just stop playing, right? Like, yeah, the thing people are missing is that there must be a lot of people who act weird toward her. K-Brad was talking about how experienced players have a duty. It's easier to say that as an extroverted male. Yeah, it is. And again, K-Brad's examples that he talked about have all been offline. A lot of the examples that he gave are offline, right? But if you literally have, like, I don't know, let's be conservative. Let's say UMISHO gets 5 requests for sets every day. Like, I think that's reasonable. That's a lot. I think that's a lot. Like, I don't know this person. You have no idea what their motivations are. You know, like, you have, right, that's the thing is I'm going really, really small here. Small child load. I'm intentionally saying 5 here because it probably is more. But even if it's only 5, that's a lot. That is a lot to deal with. That is a lot to handle, especially if you're just chilling there and you're like, you know what? I feel like shit today. I'm depressed. I really don't even want to get out of bed. You know? Like, it's a tough situation to handle, honestly. It is a really tough situation to handle. And that's one of the things, too, is that, you know, again, empathy means you are hyper aware that other people exist. And it's not just that, you know, it's like when all the people who DM me are like, I bet you get 1 million DMs all the time, James. So sorry. Like, instantly, that's empathy, right? That's instantly empathy right there because they're aware that you're not the only person on the planet and you're probably not the only person DMing this guy, right? So, like, instantly, there's a little bit of empathy right there. And, you know, that's kind of the thing is you have to be aware that so much is happening to these people. So, again, largely sounds like what I'm doing is defending UMISHO's point of view here. And I am, because, again, you know, I talked a lot about, you know, like, yes, it's a responsibility of yours as a professional, as a top player to give back to the community, right? But it is also, you are not obligated to play sets with anybody. You are not obligated to play sets with anyone. I don't care who you are. Your time is your time. Your space is your space. And nobody knows what the hell you're going. I mean, we've all had this discussion where it's like, please don't go up to a player after they've lost the match because they're usually salty. Don't ask for a picture after someone loses a match on stream and then you run up and cut them off while they're trying to walk back to the chair or to their room after a loss and be like, can I get a picture? You know, like, don't do that, right? But it's kind of the same thing here. If you are asking somebody for a set and when they say no, if you think that there is like some sort of obligation on their part to play you or that, you know, they're being rude, like, no, no. Tatsu actually so people would ask him to play sets and he'd win like 10 games, lose 1, and that one loss would be on YouTube. I beat a top player, and then they talk shit. Yeah, Jay Wong talked about this, how hella people ask him to play some random jank game he's never played. Justin will win the set 5-1, but that person will then upload that one loss and talk hella shit about Justin. Yeah, there's that too. There's that factor too, right? Like, someone on my stream came up to me one time and they had the TTV link at the end of their name. And they're like, James, let's play a set. Come on, let's play a set. Come on, let's play a set. And I was like, I will only play a set with you if you promise that this is not turned into content. I was like, I don't want you to turn this into content. Like, you have to swear to me that you won't actually turn this into content or anything, right? Like, it's an interesting situation. And again, this happens to me very rarely because I'm bad. I do have some people ask to play all the time, and I do it because it's rare, and plus, like, I suck, so whatever, it's fine. But like, you got to imagine how much a lot of these other players, like, how often they just get people asking them to do this. And again, there is no obligation on their part. Again, whether they decide to play with you or not, like, if I were talking to any of these players, I would be like, oh yeah, I would recommend finding a system. Maybe they have to pay. Maybe it's a training session, or maybe that's a sub goal or something. Like, find a way to engage, because engaging with your fans is also so important. It is so important. In fact, it was the voice actress for Agretzko. I met the voice actress for Agretzko because she did the voice acting for one of the Kill la Kill characters, and I met her on one of the Arc Revo episodes because she was invited on just to talk about the Kill la Kill game and stuff. I talked to her, and I don't remember how, but the conversation kind of went down that path of, like, I was talking about how people would come up to me and ask me for photos and autographs and stuff like that, and how awkward it made me feel, because I was just like, you know what? I'm just James. Like, I'm just this schlub, I'm just like this dorky, fat old Asian kid who just, like, sits there and loves fighting games. Like, why do people want my autograph and stuff like that? Like, I'm nobody. Like, this is weird and it's strange, But she was like, I used to feel the same way too, but, like, you have to understand that meeting you might make somebody's day, right? Like, even though you think you're a normal person, someone may look up to you so much, or, someone has this very, they admire you greatly, and, interacting with them and taking the time to talk to them and stuff really can change a lot. And it's happened a lot, right? I've had lots of stories where people are like, God, I met James at Evo, and he stopped and talked with me for like 10 minutes. It was great. He was so nice. FGC is so welcoming, et cetera, et cetera. And again, as a public figure, yes, it is absolutely our responsibility to do these things, right? And so that's why at Evo and stuff, I take the time to walk the floor, to talk to people, why I take the time to actually have conversation with people, and definitely try not to make it look like, oh my God, you're bothering me. And if I'm in a hurry, I tell people, I'm like, yo, I'm in a hurry. I gotta commentate. I'm so sorry. And look, Inappropriate Martyr says, I met you at an Evo and you were super nice. It was a highlight of the event for sure. And you know what? These are things that people are going to remember. These are the things that you're going to remember. And that's why it's important for me to do these kind of things. So yes, if I'm talking to UMISHO, if I'm having a one-on-one with UMISHO right now, I would tell her, yes, it's tough, but these are things that you have to consider to do, and et cetera, et cetera. But don't do it at the expense of your own mental health. And that's the thing. Even though I say that it is a responsibility of public figures and popular players to interact with people, to help people, to continue to do for them what other people did for you, to pay it forward, et cetera, et cetera. If your brain is not in that place, you have no obligation to do anything. You have no obligation to do anything. And anybody who actually tries really hard, or guilts you, or tells you you're wrong for having that attitude, is unfair, is really unfair. Because again, you don't know what anybody's going through. You don't know the kind of things that are happening in a person's life. And so, this is what makes this topic so delicate, why I wanted to address it, especially not in a, should this happen? Should this work? Well, this is like the reason why I want to get so in depth in this psychology and this understanding and stuff is because, again, neither side is right. Neither side is right. Both sides are absolutely correct in what they want to say. But the thing about it is, it's really not that hard to just be like, oh, you don't feel like it right now? No problem. You didn't respond to me? Whatever. Or you played a set with me? Awesome. You're so cool. Like, it's so easy to be understanding of other people's feelings. And this goes for the whole entire world. It's so easy being understanding of other people's feelings, yet nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to do it. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to me, especially, like I said, as a person with so much empathy that I have, So again, like I said, it's interesting. Like I would absolutely tell people that you should, like that UMISHO has no responsibility. In fact, people were arguing in the chat over here. Please don't DM me to ask for sets if I don't know you. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people said they didn't really have a terrible feeling about that tweet. They weren't like, that wasn't the tweet that bothered me. That one I understood. And then most people, me included, just don't want to commit their time to playing someone they will probably get no meaningful practice out of playing. I don't think that's weird. A lot of people took offense to that tweet. Again, spur of the moment, like I read that tweet and I'm like, oh God, that's just one of those like so many responses, type a response back, kind of thing. But at the same time, is there anything really wrong? I mean, most people, me included, just don't want to commit their time to playing someone that they will probably get no meaningful practice out of playing. I don't think that's weird. Again, in the end, there's really nothing that wrong with the tweet. If Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan came up to some scrub and they're like, I want to play you one-on-one, Jordan or Kobe, and Kobe's like, nah, and walks away, like, is everyone just going to be like, man, screw Kobe Bryant, dude? Like, they'll be like, Mamba mentality, baby, let's go. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you wasting Kobe Bryant's time? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a very, it's a very reasonable take, honestly, out there. It wasn't worded particularly nicely. It wasn't, and again, like I said, it's an emotional, spur of the moment tweet. But again, I personally don't think that there's anything wrong, particularly wrong with the tweet. You know what I mean? People would absolutely bitch about Kobe if he did that. People are stupid. Yeah, some would, right? I mean, mostly people get mad when they see players ignore kids and don't sign jerseys and stuff like that. Like, I know people really love Stephen Curry because he takes the time all the time to like sign jerseys and do all these things like that. And then people will get on LeBron's case because he ignores kids and walks past them and stuff. And people are like, oh my God, you suck. I mean, it was a big news story about that one time Taylor Swift walked past some little girl who wanted her autograph, and she actually didn't notice and turned around and saw the little girl and was like, oh my God, turned around, ran back and signed really quick. And everyone's like, oh my God, Taylor Swift, what an angel, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, people talk about that shit all the time. People talk about this kind of shit all the time. So, Wonder himself, David is now officially a lawyer for Tenno, so he can't do content like this anymore because he works with a lot of the companies that we talk about, so he can't be like, this game sucks, and then be like, hey guys, will you want to work at this event? He can't do that anymore, so unfortunately, David is unable to do Tuesday show stuff anymore, so... but yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation. It is a very, very difficult situation to navigate. And honestly, a lot of it just comes from the fact that we don't have anyone to train us. We don't have really any sort of history of... And the other thing, too, is that fighting games pride themselves on being accessible, right? Fighting games pride ourselves on that because... you see this in the poker world all the time. Oh my God, I bluffed Phil Hellmuth. They get the kicks out of that shit. Obviously, Phil Hellmuth, let's be honest, invites that upon himself. But, like poker and fighting games are similar in that you you will sit down at the table with the best player, right? Like literally, you'll just be walking around the venue and there's Smug, and there's Daigo, and there's Bonchan, and you just walk right by, or Bonchan walks by, and you're like, oh my God, it's Bonchan. You know, like a lot of times I'll be walking along and somebody's just like, oh my God, that's James Chen. That's James Chen. And, you know, if I hear that, I'll just turn around and like, kind of like, raise my eyebrows at them and keep walking, you know, like they're obviously respecting my time by not interrupting me, but I want to acknowledge the fact that I heard them and, you know, give them a little moment and stuff like that. And I think that's actually really kind of neat, right? I think that's really funny, but like, that's just the thing, right? The FGC prides itself on being accessible, and I don't ever want it to change. I don't want us to become the kind of community where Daigo has to be walked but with armed guards, or you can only see these people if they're behind ropes and stuff like that, like it is in a lot of other communities, right? I don't want to elevate the players to a level that I don't think should be a standard here. But at the same time, you know, you also have to understand that they're people, that they have their boundaries, et cetera, and you have to judge whether or not the person at the time is in that mode of, am I being a public figure right now? Or do I just kind of want to be by myself? Like there is a little bit of that you have to judge as well. And it is very difficult. And honestly, again, you know, empathy, kindness, modesty, those kind of things go a long way. If you do see someone, you're like, hey, I don't mean to bother you, but can I get a picture right now? You know, like, that goes a long way. A lot of times someone who might not be in the mood for a picture will just be like, yeah, okay, let's do it, because, you know what? It feels good because you asked nicely, et cetera, right? So I think it's really important. So yeah, we didn't turn people into celebrities, and yeah, we did used to get mad at Smash players for wanting the whole VIP room and having gods and, you know, worshiping them beyond what you should do, right? I mean, yeah. So a lot of this does come from that. Absolutely. So. Wonder himself says, therapists and life coaches really boosted the LCS. Whether you like League or not, it was a huge help. Exactly. This is super, super important. Dude McGuy says, I saw James, David, and Sajam years ago at Capcom Cup in Anaheim. Oh, wow. That was Mena RD. Yes, that was the year that Mena RD won. Yep, actually the first year Mena RD won SFE. I was too embarrassed, nervous to talk to them, and they were eating lunch, so I didn't want to bother. And again, like, you know, especially for commentators, we're also in a very different position than the players, right? We are the public faces. And so, you know, if you see us eating and you're too embarrassed to come talk to us, again, understand that a person like Sajam, a person like me, a person like David, we know where we are in the fighting game community. If you come up to us and just are like, hi, just want to say, big fan, don't mean to bother your food, that's it, and you just walk away, like none of us will ever find any fault in that. And we'll never be bothered. And in fact, a lot of times we will say things like, oh, dude, you want a picture? Like, are you sure? Do you want a picture? And people are like, oh, no, it's okay. And we're like, no, it's fine. Let's get a picture. You know, we'll do that a lot. You know what I mean? Things like that happen. If we don't say, do you want a picture? Then yeah, then maybe we are in some mood. But, you know, again, we will never feel like you're bothering us, especially as commentators, especially as people who have put ourselves in the position to be the conduit between the audience and the players and the passion, right? Like literally, I feel like that's part of the job of being a commentator, is that you are the conduit between the players and the audience. And so there is no point in time in which if you ever come up to me, if I'm not just like, hey, thank you, but I'm busy right now, I need to take care of something. Like if I'm not like that, like, you know, if I am at a point where I don't want to be bothered, you'll hear that, right? That's what you'll hear from me. But there's no point where I can legit ever be angry at someone for wanting to stop me and say hi, or just even a glancing comment or something like that. Because again, I know that's my position. But again, also, I'm old. I've been through it. I understand all these people that we're talking about, I talked about Chris G. This was Chris G when he was early 20s. UMISHO, I don't even know if she is 20 right now. Mena RD, Punk, all these people, they're all early 20s. They're teens. These people are teens. And, you know, once you get to my age, you realize when you were that age, you don't know fucking shit. You don't know anything. And so, like, it's hard for these people out there to understand that, to handle it, to deal with it. And I think it's really unfortunate that the internet society here allows the access, right? Like, I've seen it before where an NBA player on the Mavericks, I think it was, missed a bunch of three-pointers in a playoff game. And, like, literally the tweets are like, I hope you die. I hope you and your family get run over by a car. Like, people are like, dude, it's like, come on. Like, social media has given too much access to this, right? And so, like, you know, this is such a difficult thing to navigate. And we do not have anybody teaching, and we don't have anybody out there who's been through a lot of it because they don't exist to be able to give the help. People like me, people like a Mike Watson or an Alex Vi or whatever like that, none of us have experienced the things that UMISHO and Punk and Mena RD and Knuckle Do are experiencing right now. None of us. Even Justin Wong, okay? As big and popular as Justin Wong got, we didn't have Twitter when he was playing MVC2. We didn't have social media when he was playing MVC2. If social media existed during MVC2, oh dear God. Oh dear God. Honestly. Honestly. So, Fleecer says, yeah, I tried to say hi to James at SEO one year and didn't notice until I said hi. The edited food in his hand was just trying to walk out. Super polite about it, though. Don't be scared to say hi to people. Yeah, there you go. So, absolutely. I mean, you want to say that is the same for every generation, but it's not. It really isn't. There's no way anybody from my generation and just under my generation playing fighting games know what it's like to handle social media when you are a top player. When you have the ability to cry and whine and be like, man, this character fucking broken, I hate them, or whatever. Like, we don't know what that's like. We have no idea what that's like. And yeah, and Kraken, I mean, I'm assuming Kraken is old enough to know what MVC2 times were like. If you don't know what MVC2 times were like, okay, one player was banned from EVO for pulling a knife on somebody. That same person was accused of pouring sugar down someone's gas tank, okay? There was a lot of shit that happened during the MVC2 days, okay? You guys have no idea. You guys have no idea what MVC2 was like back in the day. Holy shit, dude. And if social media existed back then, it would have been absolutely crazy. I mean, literally, the dude was banned from an event so much that the Vegas security was given photos of him and all of his buddies. And I still remember talking to those guards at one point. We're like, yeah, you have to make sure that you have to take care of this person. And they're like, all right, we'll be on a lookout, because there was rumors he was going to show up to EVO anyway, even though he was banned. And I was talking to the guard, and I was like, so I just want to warn you, some of this guy's friends are like really big dudes and whatever like that. And the Vegas guard he laughed. He was like, don't worry, we got it. And I was like, oh shit, we're in Vegas. Yeah, okay, they will probably have no issues with anybody. Oh, dude, Strider0 in the chat. Yeah, you know exactly, dude. Holy shit. Oh my God. Strategist, that same person threatened me for recording a match after they lost to a certain character. Yep. Oh, man. I have not seen Casino, though now I feel like I should, Mollusk Lover. Oh, man. I mean, again, Chabroni, obviously some people are going to see this in the chat just to address this, Infiltration, very different situation, right? It's a very different situation, very different time. And people have asked me to talk about that situation. But again, I feel like a lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people have their opinions about it. I'm staying respectfully out of the situation right now, out of the conversation. I have my feelings and stuff on it, but that's it's just something that I don't feel like I need to address. I don't need to address. There's nothing I can add to the conversation that other people are talking about. Whereas something like this, an UMISHO situation, I really do feel like I can add a lot to the conversation, right? I feel like I can add to the conversation. So, and again, we're not going to get ADHD sidetracked into that part. So, let's finish up over here on the UMISHO side of things here. Again, like I said, it's just, when she says, I think the thing that people took most offense into was the playing somebody they will probably get no meaningful practice out of playing. And again, this is when you're asking for a set on DM, this is committing your personal time at your home to doing this, right? This is not I'm at an event and I'm playing games, I'm in public form, and someone's like, UMISHO, I'm a really big fan. Can I play a set against you? You're my inspiration. Because again, UMISHO is in a very unique position. She's not only an EVO winning, top playing trans player out there, who is a role model and an inspiration for so many people out there. This puts her in a very unique position so that a lot of people will look up to her and idolize her, and she represents a lot. And trust me, it means a lot to see somebody out there succeeding, who is like you, right? That kind of thing is very important. And so for sure, UMISHO in public will be a very different person than UMISHO at home getting DMs, right? I can tell you right now, when I'm not on stream, when I'm not at an event, people in the chat are saying like, oh, I run into you, James, you're so nice, you're whatever like that. Like, I am a fucking sour ass motherfucker. Like at home, I complain, I'm like sad, I'm like mad all the time, I'm depressed, it's not a pretty human being at home, shit goes down at home when you're by yourself. The Tekken clip, right, exactly. And the Tekken clip is barely even the worst of my history of actual rage as a child and stuff like that. So honestly, when you're at home, it's just very, very different. And you're like, do I really feel like playing this person that, I'm not going to learn anything from while I'm at home? Because when you're at an event, you're at an event. What are you going to do? You're not going to do your laundry. You're not going to take care of it. You're not going to go snuggle your cats. You're not gonna, take the time to mentally rest yourself. You're at an event. So of course I'll play you. I'm here to play games. But when you're at home, I'm telling you right now, as a single dude with ADHD, it is hard for me every day. I struggle every day trying to balance between, hey, I should stream, I need to edit, and fuck, my house is a mess, and oh God, I need to take care of this, and holy shit, I'm out of groceries. I had a day where literally I opened my trunk from buying groceries and a gallon of water fell out, hit the ground, and splashed everywhere. And it sent me into a depression spiral because that day just sucked, right? You guys just have no idea. And that's the thing. When you're at home, it's a very different place. You're in your home, right? It is a different place. And so, yes, if you say, I don't know if I want to play someone that's not going to help me, like, it's a valid thing to say. It's a valid thing to say. Yeah, and like Small Child Lord says, like, I just like playing fighting games all the time. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's amazing. Amazing. And you know what? That's great. That's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's like, I'm happy for you. Not everybody is like that. And that's just the thing. And that's where the empathy comes from. I learned this a lot as well because a long time ago, in a very tight-knit group of friends, we yelled at somebody because they were very different than the rest of us. They didn't think like the rest of us. And we kept peer pressuring them to behave the way we did. And things went really sour, and I came to the realization that we were the ones who were wrong. Like, we shouldn't enforce how we wanted to behave on anybody else. And it was a very educational experience for me. You know, I learned in that moment that I was like, no, we can't put our expectations on other people. You know, I knew someone who was very aloof. It was somebody I know, it was their wife, very aloof. And every time we'd visit, you know, like, she wouldn't say much. And like, for a while, it was like, oh, like, is she just like mean or whatever? Like, why doesn't she say hi? But then, like, my other friend, who's also kind of aloof, who doesn't really say much, every time he came over, she really liked him because he never bothered her. And then she would just go out of her way to talk to him. And you're just like, you know what? Like, just respect the way other people act and behave. Just respect it. Not everyone is you. Not everybody has to conform. And, you know, of course, this always brings up the magical question, and now we're getting super deep into the weeds over here of, you know, when, like, what's the limit, right? You can't, like, obviously you want to let people be people, but obviously there are some things that are wrong. There are some things that are not forgivable, and there are some things that we absolutely need to call out. What's the line? Where do we draw the line? And again, sorry about this. I don't mean to get all weird and deep and whatever and philosophical on everybody. But for me, it's not even a gray area, Peter 0611. I think there's a very easy answer to this. And it's just basically the line is when you start disrespecting somebody else. As long as you respect other people, as long as you're not harming anyone, as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you are not disrespecting anybody else, you deserve my respect. As soon as you start disrespecting or thinking somebody else is less than you, is worse than you, is less significant than you, deserves scorn, etc., that is where I can start calling you out. That's my philosophy. You don't have to live by that philosophy. You don't have to agree with it. You could disagree with it heavily. And I understand, right? Yeah. But, you know, again, that's my philosophy. That's my philosophy. So, yeah, I mean, the hard thing about talking about trash talking, which we'll talk about a little bit here in the beef section over here, is that trash talking comes in so many forms. And that's the thing, right? Like, with certain groups of friends that I play, like if I ever play fighting games with Ultra David and Tuboware, like they're just talking shit the whole entire time. And that doesn't fly with me. I don't do well with that. I don't like it. I'm not a shit talker, and I feel very uncomfortable with it. But I know it's never mean-spirited. I know that they're not like being actually hurtful. It's just that's just their style. That's just their nature. They enjoy that kind of thing, right? Knowing the boundaries, etc. So you can't ever be mad at that, right? Like, I'm never going to be like, shut up, guys. Like, it's like they don't mean it. And if it really gets to that point where it bothers me, I will just be like, hey, guys, I'm not comfortable with this. But it hasn't ever reached that point. So who the fuck cares? You know what I mean? Like, trash talking can go from, you know, playful trash talking to a legit, I don't like you, but I'm not going to attack you. I'm just going to say you are ass at this game. And that's a different story. But as soon as you start going in on a person, there was a history of someone talking shit to Ricky Ortiz and got really personal. I don't need to explain how. And that's when everybody was like, okay, like, shut the fuck up, okay? Shut the fuck up or get the fuck out of our community. You know, that's the thing, right? And like, even for me at one point in time, it was at a Texas Showdown. I was doing commentary and someone was like, God, I hate James. James is so shitty, whatever. And the guy running the stream was like, hey, do you want me to ban him? Do you want me to ban this guy? I was like, whatever, dude, whatever. I see this all the time. It's fine. And then they were like, started talking shit about Ricky in that way. And I was like, okay, ban the motherfuckers, you know, like, like, honestly, like, that is, you know, like, as soon as you start disrespecting somebody else, that is where the line gets drawn for me. That is where the problem starts to happen. So some of my friends are trash talkers. I told them I always dare the line on comments about family. Draw the line on comments about family. They respect the boundary and continue trash talk. The few who didn't respect it, well, they aren't really friends anymore. Exactly. And that's the thing. So trash talking is not just some nebulous, should we ban, should we not ban? There's very much of a spectrum over there, right? Like, if you're going to talk smack about someone's gameplay, you know, obviously there can be going too far, even if you are keeping it in game. And we'll call that out. That is something that we have to take care of as a community as well. But again, you know, for the most parts right now, the FGC, which is known to have a lot of bravado, and again, this is going to be really relevant in the FGC beef section over here. You know, it's not that we're making up or stretching rules just for us. But you know, it is a passionate game. It is a game of emotions. And, sometimes you can't help it. Hungry Box just threw a chair and everybody's been talking about Hungry Box throwing a chair, right? But Hungry Box is also the same guy who got so hype on stream that he literally passed out. He just passed out. Like, there's literally a clip of him going, let's go! Flunk. Like, literally like Vizzini in The Princess Bride, right? Like, clearly, again, before the chat, we were talking about people being on the spectrum. And again, I don't mean this in terms of an insult, because I think the majority of the people are on the spectrum. There's definitely a way that Hungry Box's brain is wired, that he just gets that excited to the point where he can actually black himself out. And yeah, Louis B, I'm the same way. I really hate egotistical or cocky people or people who like themselves too much. And even then, I've learned to dial that back, because I never said a nice thing about Jabali whenever I commentated any of his matches. Because Jabali is one of the most conceited, egotistical people out there. And, you know, he'll tell you the same. Because he knows it. He knows that's the way he is. And I have problems with that kind of personality, because I am the kind of person who, like, finds egotism as a weakness. And so I used to always just take the time whenever Jabali was on stream to try to knock him down, to say shit to him and be mean to him and stuff. And that's not a Jabali problem. That's a James problem. That's 100% a James problem. And literally at one Evo, he was on commentary, and I was just like, I literally said, I was like, I'm not going to say mean things about him, because Jabali has done a lot of amazing shit for the FGC. And I was like, I only say mean things about him because that's my problem. That's my problem. And so, you know, I do have problems with conceited people, with people who are egotistical, who are cocky. But again, you know, a lot of times that's what makes them who they are. Jabali wouldn't be running one of the best events in the country if it wasn't for that bravado that he has. He wouldn't have helped turn DreamHack into a place where the FGC is actually welcomed and taken care of if he wasn't that kind of person, you know? Hell, like Kenny Omega right now is going through some injury recovery. He can't wrestle, so he's been streaming. And a lot of that stream was helped set up by Jabali, you know? And would Jabali be really good friends with Kenny Omega and be able to help him do stuff like that if he weren't Jabali? No, he wouldn't be. And so at the same time, you got to recognize where the strengths come from, right? As long as Jabali's not out there being like, you suck, I hate you, you suck, and like, you know, doing really bad things to people. If he's just like, I love myself and I'm amazing, you know, who is it for me to judge? Yeah, King 9999, it just happened. Like, he won a Jigglypuff mirror. He was down 0-2, and then he won it 3-2. And he got up and knocked his chair backwards. But he was like, ah! And I think the adrenaline got to him. So while he reached down to pick up the chair, I think the adrenaline flowed a little bit too much. So instead of picking up the chair and putting it down in the right place, he picked it up and literally slammed the chair onto the stage, which is dangerous because those stages are scary, okay? But, you know, again, I saw that and I was like, this is the guy who passed out from getting too hype on stream. Like, he's not doing this out of anger or cruelty or anything like that, you know? Yeah, exactly. He shouldn't have thrown the chair. People know that it was a bad thing that he did, right? But, you know, it's not something that's like, he wasn't doing anything hateful. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, I think, dude, as soon as you see him pass out from being too hype, like, that's not something you stage, like, because that's not something you, like, like, as much as people like seeing me cry at Evo, I don't like seeing me cry at Evo, and I'm embarrassed by it. And so, like, I try not to cry at Evo, you know, like, I'm not crying because I'm like, this makes for a good show, and this is, you know, I want to be meaningful. Like, it fucking happens. I can't do anything about it. Like, I literally can't do anything about it. I find myself crying to the most just mundane shit these days. Because, like, I'll just see something and I'll just be like, oh my God, that's so meaningful. You know, like, it just happens, dude. I'm just an emotional kind of guy. So, like, clearly, I don't think Hungry Box is faking anything. That's just the way he's wired, you know? And again, when I say, you know, when I talk about being on the spectrum and autism and stuff like that, I say that knowing full well that I'm pretty sure I am on some level of this spectrum, man. Like I am probably way more autistic than I even know, right? I mean, that's why I have this ADHD and this OCD and this introvert and the depression and all these things like that. I know I'm at that level, so I'm not saying it to anybody else as if I'm trying to insult them. I'm saying it because I'm trying to make people understand this is a very normal thing. This is an absolutely normal thing. This is what people do. That's just what it is. So how did the FGC get so soft? We need another Noel Brown versus... Okay, we'll talk about that in the next section. Actually, that's the whole other section over here. We'll talk about that Wonder himself. And that's actually a really good topic to discuss about the whole FGC going soft kind of thing. And yeah, for those of you here on YouTube, this video will come up next. So keep an eye out for it. But for people trying to claim FGC is going soft, I mean, that's just not what's happening. That's just not what's happening at all. Nobody is going soft, okay? Nobody's getting soft. We just have the ability to hold motherfuckers accountable. That's all it is now, okay? So, let's go ahead and just get to this next section over here. So, for those of you on YouTube right now, keep an eye out for that, but please make sure that you have an opportunity to like and subscribe, comment below. Just let me know if you appreciate, again, these kind of conversations that I have, this kind of level of discussion. Hope you guys appreciate mature and looking at things at this in a different way, you know. Oh, yeah. Quinn, we talked about that for a long time already. So, but you're right. That's basically what I said. I said, so to TLDR, as a top player, you do have a responsibility to be a public figure. You don't have a choice. And so You do have a responsibility to try to give back to your community, et cetera, to be a representative, et cetera, et cetera. But no, you have no responsibility to actually, there should be zero expectations on you playing sets with people, et cetera, because you're a human being. People have no idea what you're going through. People should not expect that kind of thing out of you, right? You should be able to play or deny sets. And again, the last thing that's super important, remember, if you're asking for sets at home, you are taking time away from their home, which is entirely different than asking for a set at an event, because they're at the event, they're already social, they're already in the mindset that I need to interact and I need to play, and I'm here to be in front, public face. You know, we talked about the Beatles before the stream start, you know, wearing a mask that she keeps in the jar by the door, Eleanor Rigby. That's exactly what that line means. When you're at an event, you've already put on your mask that you show to the world when you open the door. When you're at home, your time is your time. And it becomes much more personal when you're asking for people's time when they're at home. And that's the big difference right there. And that's why I think that's where a lot of people are misconstruing a lot of the things that UMISHO has been talking about. So you have to beat them in chess boxing first in order to get sets with top players. I mean, honestly, if you're going to play somebody at home, like, yeah, I mean, set up a payment system, offer to pay them to play them. Like, money talks in a weird way, right? So, yeah, I mean, the heel character behavior of the old FGC, again, Gundam Jehudi Kai, we'll talk about that. We'll talk a lot about that. So, in this next section. So, in any case, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this very mature conversation here. Hopefully, I kept it very mature and kept it at a way that I hope, you know, people can see that there is no right or wrong answer to this particular issue. So, and again, if you enjoy it, like and subscribe. On Twitch, please sub as well. You can come to the Twitch channel at any point in time and sub. I've got PayPal donations. If you type !donate in the chat, you can see the donation links, et cetera. Would really appreciate that. I'm going to rework my Patreon and everything at some point in time very soon. I said I would do it early in the year. We're already halfway through the year, Jesus Christ. Okay, anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. And the day that this podcast graced your ears was the most important day of your life, but for me,
it was Tuesday.